If you can draw a cylinder from any angle, well, you can draw any pose. Bold claim, I know. But as a professional artist with over 20 years of experience, I guarantee you this video will make it click for you, or you get a full refund. The problem most artists face usually is something like this. Like you want to draw a character, right? And you might have like a vague idea of the pose you want, like maybe a general sense of the action they're doing. But the second you put it on paper, it falls apart. It's like all the details you thought you figured out in your head, well, they turn out to be way fuzzier than expected. And I know because that was the case for me too before. Well, today I'm gonna take you through the 4 levels of drawing poses. From the absolute basics to drawing any pose with perspective and from different angles, no reference needed. This will level you up, so let's get started. So before anything else, here's what I think most artists do wrong, if their goal is to improve, of course. When you're looking at a pose reference, you're probably thinking in 2D. Kinda makes sense, you're looking at 2D shapes on a flat surface. But the moment you try to draw the same pose from a different angle maybe, or draw a pose from imagination, you realize like really quickly that you just don't have the tools to be able to do that. So what we're gonna practice in this class is to stop seeing in 2D, like everybody else, and start seeing as an artist in 3D space. And the way you do that is actually super simple. You just gotta master drawing cylinders, boxes, and spheres in perspective. The entire human body can be constructed from these basic volumes. I did a video recently going over how to construct a body that way, so I'll spare you the details, but you can watch that later. I'll have the link below in the description. But to draw the body in any pose, you just gotta have a solid grasp on the main ingredients that go into it. So level 1 is this. You gotta get comfortable at drawing boxes, cylinders, and spheres that feel 3-dimensional from different angles, like in different orientations. And then you practice assembling those into a standing mannequin. This will need to feel easy before you move on, because if your basic volumes are like flat or pointing in the wrong direction, well, every pose you build using those will look broken. Now, there are many ways to draw the human mannequin. That's just how I do it, but find whatever works well for you and, get comfortable with it. Then you'll be able to move on to level 2 and actually start posing it. So once your standing mannequin feels pretty solid, well, it's time to actually start drawing poses now. And we're always going to be starting from reference, because without reference, you can't improve. References add new information to your brain, and drawing from imagination only really rehearses what you already know. So if you don't know much, there's not much to rehearse. And we'll get to drawing from imagination later, but you earn it here first. So grab a reference of someone in a pose that you'd actually want your characters in. And this matters more than you think. Your brain retains information way better when it knows that it's going to need it later. Kind of makes sense, right? So pick poses that you'll actually use in your future art. Like a dynamic pose for a character illustration will stick way better than some random contortion that you'll never draw again. It can be a good challenge maybe, but really not useful for the long run. And you can find a ton of photo packs for quality reference, or maybe a different option would be a website like Pose Maniacs. You can find a bunch of posed 3D models there, and you can rotate so that you get exactly the angle that you want. So with your reference in front of you, the process is the same as level 1. You construct the pose using cylinders, spheres, and boxes if needed. So you start with the head, figure out its angle and tilt, then the torso, which way it's facing, is it twisted, is it leaning, then the hips, then the limbs, always starting from big body parts first. And you're really aligning those basic volumes in space to match what you see in the photo. This isn't easy, right? And it's not meant to be, because once you can do this well, you'll be 90% of the way to drawing any pose from imagination. So don't skip this stuff. At first, it might even help to trace the pose if drawing it purely from observation is too hard. But that's a really big crush that you'll want to move on from as soon as possible. Now, this step shouldn't really take much time, and that's the whole idea, right? If something looks a little bit off with my basic volumes, well, I can just go back in, make some adjustments without losing too much time. And then from here, I just connect the volumes, close the silhouettes, and refine with whatever anatomy I know. So always construction first and details after. Always. But maybe doing just studies like these is not super fun, and I never enjoyed that part. So personally, I wouldn't stop here. Like if the pose turns out great, then might as well turn that into a full drawing. And there's actually a benefit to that, because when the study part is just a means to an end, it tends to stick in your brain way easier, which in turn helps you learn faster. And this is what science actually calls just-in-time learning. And that's because studies without an immediate goal don't tend to work as well. Now, this level, I would stick to like pretty simple, basic poses in simple angles, like no extreme perspective or anything like that just yet. You're training your brain really to see the human body as an assortment of like simple volumes. One thing at a time. Now, I would say the best way to build a really good like library of poses in your head is to practice gesture drawing. So lots of quick poses with a time limit. So you're forced to focus on the big shapes and not the details. And I would do a ton of that at this level. This is one of the best exercises there is to get good at drawing characters in any pose. You need to practice this if you want to get good. Now, this level will actually get you to drawing from imagination. And to get there, here's the best exercise. Take a pose from reference and copy it carefully so you really understand the construction. Then put the reference away and try to draw the same pose from a completely different angle. The front view, now draw it from the side maybe. Start from a different angle, doesn't matter, just rotate it any way you like and try to draw it from imagination, using of course the original pose as reference. And when you're done with this, well, you can check the reference by rotating it in the same position and seeing how close you came. Sites like Pose Maniacs again let you spin 3D models so you can compare and check how far off you were. It's a great tool to use for this exercise. And you can also use the reference for both angles at first, if this is too hard. But I would make it your target to draw the second pose from imagination. And something that can help you a lot, something that Kim Jung-gi made very obvious when he was teaching, was to put your characters in a box, in a bounding box. So basically you draw the box first in the right angle, and then you fit your character in it, using the box as a guide to help measure things right. Like if the start of the leg is at exactly half the full height of your character, then you can split that box in half to find exactly where that is in perspective. It's pretty useful. And this is hard, right? Whether you do it with or without the bounding box. The first many times you do it, you'll get a lot wrong. The arms attached to the torso wrong, proportions that are off, and that's all okay. That's the whole point. Every mistake you catch is hopefully a mistake that you won't do the next time. It's like this big puzzle at first where initially you're missing all the pieces, so the image is very hard to see. But with repetition, practice, all those pieces start to fit in place and the image gets clearer and clearer. And what this exercise does is to force you to understand the pose in 3D, rather than just memorizing what it looks like from just a 2D reference. And it's practicing this stuff that makes it possible to draw from imagination. Because of course, you're never really drawing from imagination. We say that, but really what it means is using your understanding of 3D space to modify things that you've seen before. You're really drawing from memory. Now, all of this goes way deeper than I can cover in just a single video. This should definitely help, but if you want more, if you want the full structure through construction, anatomy, perspective, foreshortening, colors, storytelling, composition, all of these things building on each other in the right order, well, that's exactly what my art program is built for. It's the sponsor of this video. We have over 31,000 registered students using it to take their art to the next level, and we're celebrating our 9th year anniversary this month with the biggest discount we'll have until the end of the year. And it's valid until the end of the month only. So check it out with the link in the video description. I think you'll be glad you did. Now, this is a luxury. You could technically figure out all of this stuff by yourself with enough time, trial, and error. But if you want the full guided version, week by week, from a career professional, art school might just be what allows you to unlock all your potential as fast as possible. All right, now level 4, and this is the final level. You'll be drawing poses from your head in perspective, maybe with foreshortening. And really how you get there is through the rotation exercise. Working on this gradually over time. This doesn't happen all at once, of course. So as you keep practicing in level 3, you'll notice that you need the reference check less and less. And eventually you won't need it much at all because your mental 3D models just gets more and more accurate over time. Foreshortening is the hardest part of this level, but the method is identical, really. It's always cylinders, boxes, and spheres, just at more extreme angles. The trick is that the cylinder gets shorter as it points more directly at you, and the ellipses on its ends become rounder. Like a forearm pointing straight at the viewer is barely a cylinder anymore. It's almost just a circle with a slightly smaller circle like right behind it. And if you understand how cylinders and boxes behave in perspective, foreshortening quickly just becomes another angle. And don't be afraid to push things too far at this level, like more dynamic angles, lower or higher camera, exaggerated perspective. If you're going to make a mistake, like I would go too far rather than not far enough, because you can always pull back, but more timid poses will always feel kind of static. And that's all 4 levels. Think in 3D, construct from reference, practice the rotation exercise, and eventually you'll be able to draw characters in any pose with foreshortening from imagination. Using references along the way is going to be super important, but eventually you'll find they're no longer necessary. That's when it gets real fun. Now, earlier I mentioned JIT learning, or just-in-time learning, and understanding how that works really helped me change how I approach learning in general. And it's made a ridiculous difference, so I would highly recommend you check out this class. It will appear up here on screen in just a second. I'll see you over there. Click that link, bro.